Welcome to our discovery group for high-speed broadband internet in Northwest Missouri. Maximize Northwest Missouri hosted the first conversation like this last June 15th. Actually, I was looking at the dates, and so we're just a day off of where we were last year, and it'll be great to have an update from some of the folks working around the state on behalf of Northwest Missouri in Northwest Missouri, and both public and private organizations here today. So thank you for coming. We know that June is a difficult time, so we are recording this today, and we will be posting it on the Maximize NWMO website, .org website. And so we'll also be pushing out notifications by social media and email to let people know that they can hop online and really tune into what you all have to share with us today. So thank you for being here. We're going to start off with I'll show our agenda here. We're going to kind of move through the agenda using the orange to kind of let us know where we're at today. So first of all, welcome. And we're going to do a couple of introductions here. I just want to share with you that we have Michael Chambers here from AT&T. Just want to say hi. I'm not sure what everybody has on their screen. And we also have Darren Farnan here from United Fiber, who's going to be sharing with us. And then Joe Lear is one of our navigation team members, and he is with the University of Missouri Extension. He's a regional director for Northwest Missouri. And I would love for you, Joe, to just introduce yourself and share who's here from your team today.
Okay, thanks, Christel. Yeah, I'm Northwest Regional Director, so I cover 20 counties in the Northwest corner for University of Missouri Extension. Today we have with us Sam Tennant, who is part of our CARES team, our Center for Applied Research and Engagement Services. Sarah Lowe, who's the director of our EXCEED group, and Marc McCarty, who's with UMKC School of Law. They're all part of the broadband initiative team that is part of the university system projects. This is, it's a cross-campus, cross-disciplinary group. So we have a lot of people, even from, Tim's on that group as well, Mornet. So we have a good cross-section of people working together to help communities with broadband.
Great, thank you, Joe. And I'm also going to mention that we do have Tim Arbeiter here with us from the Missouri Department of Economic Development, who specializes in broadband. And we also have Representative Randy Railsback with us today, who represents a good portion of our region. So thanks to everyone for being here. And there's lots of you online as well. I won't go through all of the names, but we really, really appreciate you being here this afternoon. So this is a map of our 18 counties, and I like to start out most of our conversations with this just to give us a sense of our place. And that's so important in these conversations. And so it's helpful sometimes just to see that these are the 18 counties that we are primarily concerned with in this conversation. We do, of course, have lots of conversations with our friends in bordering states and counties, but this is the focus of a lot of Maximize Northwest Missouri's work. And as you can see by the color coding here, we have differences within our own region. So the solutions that we come up with, the topics that are discussed, the priorities that each county has, and each individual community has really do differ. And a lot of that has to do with our population. And these colors signify that most of the green is primarily rural by all definitions. The darker blue are really kind of a lot closer to our metropolitan communities, both in St. Joseph and Buchanan, as well as Kansas City to the south. And our lighter blue there, that teal blue, is more of a micropolitan, and that's primarily due to Northwest Missouri State University being in Maryville there and having a little bit higher population. So that is our place that we're talking about. And Northwest Missouri is all about empowering leaders, and we're helping local communities in the region maximize our win-win opportunities for people to really thrive here. And that's part of what this conversation is about. We're hopefully helping to gather many voices and move our community and our region from being reactive and primarily project-based to aligned and integrated, and really working on how to work smarter, not necessarily harder all the time. So that is a big part of what we're doing. In addition to that, we're dreaming big and we're growing together. And this is really, really crucial because it's so incredibly important, especially for this conversation about broadband, is that we can only thrive when all of these different sectors are working together and understanding that we are part of a big picture. We're an interconnected system as a region. And so that's super helpful. And as we move forward, the image that you see there on the top, this is the basis of the framework that we're using to really guide our work and guide coaching with communities. And that is to first know our story. What is it? Which is what we're here today. Figure out where we're at on a specific issue, know our story, and then envision a future story. And think through where we really want to be. And then most importantly, what can we do together to take action to change and create that story in a way that we agree on together. So we do that through this funky word. It's a made-up word called collaboration. And the green smaller words below collaboration really do indicate the many meanings behind this fun word. Co is just that we are definitely together. This is a joint effort. We're looking for mutual interests, common goals. Lab indicates that everything's a test, right? It's all about being curious, doing our research, really digging to the root cause of different challenges. Labor means there's work involved. You know, at the end of the day, we have to do some work together and put forth our energy into combined efforts. And the or just means that there are lots of options. There's no exact one right way to do this. And I think in broadband, we're definitely going to see that. There are lots of different ways to connect, hop on, gain the type of access and the speeds that we want. So we have some choices. And then action, of course, just signifies that we actually have to do something, which I mentioned before above. And we have to actually do something on something specific. As well as, you know, just help people really turn their lights on and get excited and really get innovative and creative about what we're doing as we move onward and upward. So that being said, I just wanted to share here, what can we do together that any one of us cannot necessarily do as well on our own? And that's what this is all about. This is kind of an updated summary slide for all of you who are listening about where Maximize Northwest Missouri is in its journey. And that is that we have been holding and will continue to hold regional community forums and other listening types of sessions, continuing to do our research, continuing to bring these together and making that available for people. The second is that we're holding discovery groups like this, where we're really bringing together experts who are serving within the region to learn more about what's going on and just better understand what's actually happening with all of the different people involved. 3 is collaboration teams. We have a couple. The most active one is communications and really working on better connecting and promoting the region. Several different initiatives have moved forward since we last spoke with each other last June. And probably the key thing was we had a very successful grassroots alumni and resident survey that went out. It was basically all online. We partnered with Sarah Lowe and her team at Exceed and had quite a few different volunteers involved in pushing that out. Got roughly 2,500 people to participate in that effort. Had enough valid responses at around 2,000 to really take a look at information on what people like about the region, why they live here, why they work here, why maybe they've moved away, why they've moved back. And what we found from all of that was a sense of belonging, and connectedness is super, super important to people. Not a big surprise. But in addition to that, they definitely want opportunities to build businesses here, opportunities to work here, opportunities to connect with the rest of the world from here. And that's why this conversation as well is so important. Fourth, we've also been running this year a regional learning collaborative and different leadership development opportunities and helping to coach specific communities as well as this regional cohort that has come together on how to strategically map action, not just make a strategic plan, but actually map out action and move forward together. And we've grown the number of people involved. We've got all of Clinton County now involved. It's very exciting. Albany has definitely continued to progress and grow in this, as are several other communities that have joined us. So with that, I just thought I'd pull out, this was the map that we started our conversation with in June 2020. This is taken from All Things Missouri, which is a resource pulled together by the University of Missouri Extension, or University of Missouri. And if you just kind of look, basically what this says, it's hard to read. There's so many details when we look at different maps related to this topic, but I just wanted to share a couple with you. Look for the darker purple, and I'm going to show you now what I just pulled over the weekend for where we're at now. So it's kind of hard to see without looking at them side by side, but we are making progress, and that's the point of just sharing this with you. And not only that, but just to remind everyone that we heard in our conversation last summer that there was going to be an auction that was taking place. And I don't really know exactly how to explain that other than some funding and some opportunities was coming available, and different providers had an opportunity to submit for that. And so this map here is part of that whole process. And this again was taken from allthingsmissouri.org. And it's the results of that FCC auction. And the title of this is just Rural Divide Opportunity Fund Phase 1 Results. And so hopefully we get a chance to just hear a little bit more, learn a little bit more about this. But with that introduction, I'm going to open it up now, and we're going to focus on just hearing for a couple of minutes from the region's pretty much largest wireless provider, and then the region's largest fiber provider before we move on in our conversation. So welcome, Mike Chambers from AT&T. Do you have just a couple of things that maybe you want to share with the group today?
Sure, and I'll try and make it quick. I know AT&T has been extremely aggressive.
Can everybody hear Mike?
On the wireless side in rural and shared.
Hey, Michael. I'm not sure everybody can hear you. And this is why we're having this discussion.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure.
We
can't quite hear you.
Michael, maybe try turning your video off.
Can you hear me?
Sounds like a bit of a...
Okay. I'm sorry? Can you? Okay, let me know if... Okay. Okay, well, I'll start going, and I'll try and slow down a bit. Okay, good. We've been very aggressive.
We lost him completely.
Yep, we lost him completely. Okay, perfect example of why we're doing this. So we'll watch and see if he hops back on. In the meantime, oh.
Okay.
You want to
I'm
give
sorry, I got interrupted by a "this meeting is being recorded" message there. So very active on the wireless tower side. New towers in Andrew, Buchanan, Clinton, DeKalb, Putnam, Livingston, and I know they're not in this group's area, but they kind of help this area, the ones we've done in Saline. And then we've been very aggressive in the Sheraton Valley area, where we're not building new towers, but we're adding our equipment to 40 towers. On the fiber to the home or the internet side, we have not been extremely active. However, I think that's about to change. Some of you may be aware that AT&T has announced we're spinning off Time Warner Media from our corporation. So the AT&T that remains will be focused solely on wireless and fiber connections. So I would expect us to get far more focused on fiber to the home, which I know we see as a big part of our market, and then expanding the wireless as well. Currently, and I think I saw Brenda Shields on here, so Brenda will be pleased to know that I am aware of a new tower that we will propose. It actually falls within the city limits of St. Joe, but on the south end around the All-Tech campus. And Brenda, when that tower is completed and up and on air, that should help some of our situation just to the south of St. Joe. So I think that's good news. I've always
and Mike, this is Brenda Shields. That would be great because it's my #1 complaint I receive is the lack of service there and the kind of the unforgotten part of Buchanan County that isn't incorporated in any community and sits south of St. Joe. So thank you.
Yeah. We've worked with you for a long time, I know, Brenda, and it's a capacity issue out there. So building a few more towers along that south end of St. Joe, this one in particular at All-Tech, should help. I doubt it'll make everything perfect, but it should help. But every tower has its challenges. If you follow St. Joseph politics right now, you'll know AT&T has a rather onerous tower proposal right now on the north end of town, where we were on an American water company water tower. That lease expired in 2016. We have not been able to negotiate a new lease with the water company, and that's common throughout the country with American Water. We just made a move in the St. Louis metro area. But anyway, we're trying to move from the east side of the interstate directly across the interstate to the west side. But that west side property is residential property. And the residential folks really don't want the tower near them. It's not extremely near anybody. It would be located in 5 acres that's wooded, and we're not really disturbing any of the woods, but these things are always, they're just tough to get through the city process, and we're working on it. We've met the terms and all the conditions of the city, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the city council won't deny it. We've passed the zoning board of adjustments, and we passed the plan commission. We'll go before the council for a first read tonight, and then the public hearing will be on June 28th. But the residents have gathered a petition and circulated it. They have 130 signatures that they don't want the tower in the residential area, and I understand everyone's concerns. We've created kind of a, I'm getting old, so I've lost the term for it, but basically it's a property assessment type study that shows that towers near residential property does not impact the property value of the towers. This honestly is a good location, but again, it's the council's decision, and we'll see where it goes. And Brenda, I think I'm going to have the same challenges out by All-Tech, quite honestly. So I may call upon you for help. And that's kind of, I went a little longer than I wanted to, but that's the report. I do think you'll see a new focus from AT&T now that we've gotten rid of the media side of our business business. So we no longer own, or will no longer own CNN and Warner and all the movies, which I'm sorry, I'm not a big entertainment guy. I'm more of a network guy. So I never really understood that part of the business anyway, but I'm looking forward to the focus we'll have on the wireless networks and the fiber broadband network. And that's it from my end, and just glad to be a part of this group and glad to see. I'll only make one more comment, and that's to Tim, who's on this call. Tim had an absolutely outstanding presentation at a recent broadband committee over in Jefferson City. I hope Tim could share that presentation with these folks. I think they'd find it very informative. And that'd be my last comment. Thanks a bunch.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for that update. For a lot of us who do not have fiber, wireless is it. That's our best option. So thank you. Darren, do you want to go ahead and share what's happening in your organization?
Sure. Thanks, Christel. Yeah, we are still continuing to build fiber as you know, based on the map that you pulled up there. Primarily for this group, we're focused basically from Nottoway, Worth, Gentry, DeKalb, Clinton, and Buchanan counties. Primarily is where our fiber network is going. We've built now a little over 2,500 miles of fiber throughout that area. We've connected most of the communities in, Nottoway, Andrew, DeKalb, and Gentry, where we just finished up with our Albany build. So that was one that we've been wanting to get to. And with some of the funding that you mentioned earlier with the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, it's given us the opportunity. We'll be moving up into the Worth County area, which has been, as you guys know, a very sparse. We're under 3 meters per mile on our electric side, and Worth County is even lower than that. So that's allowed us to continue to build up there. We'll be building into the Grant City area and the surrounding areas where we have membership, especially that does not have any form of broadband up there. So, just continuing to build. We've also extended further south some of the original Connect America Fund dollars, and then of course have been down in like the Platte and Clay County areas. We've been working with Platte Clay Electric down there and continuing to expand after we purchased the internet services company in Excelsior Springs and completed our build of Excelsior just about a year ago. So, just continuing to expand. There's still a lot of money out there. As we've talked about this, Christel, at some of the meetings you and I have been on, is through the Connect America Fund dollars and then through the RDOF, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. Some of the areas, especially like Buchanan County, for example, we've pretty well covered or will be covering most of the east side of the county, north to south, and then a little bit along that southern border. But then there's some areas that were awarded wireless. And when I say wireless, it's not AT&T size companies. These are smaller companies basically that have been awarded for either 25 meg or higher services through those various auctions through the FCC. And as of yet, we haven't seen really any activity from those companies, to my knowledge. Mike might know something different, but we really haven't seen anything out of those companies that were awarded. And there's a couple of companies through the RDOF process that are still, trying to work through the scenario whether or not they're going to keep the funding or not. So anyway, so there's funding there. It's trying to get these areas, a service that's going to be robust enough to handle future. As Mike can attest to, we see that internet usage just continues to exponentially expand on households and things like that. I think I just saw a new number that the average usage of a family now is up over 400 gig a month. So, you have to have that, which has just continued to, and we've seen that on our end, just continue to increase drastically over, year to year. So again, through the pandemic, it is, as we all know, has just pushed that need even more. And so we're just, again, it's as a relatively small electric co-op, which now we'll be approaching 20,000 customers here next month, which will more than double the size of our electric co-op in just a few short years. We see that demand every day. And so again, building where we can, we build a few hundred miles every year, but there's a lot of area out there to get done. So.
Yeah.
So this is Brenda Shields again, and I hate to interrupt, but on that, I will say the same to you. So I appreciate all the building out that you have done in Buchanan County, but I represent the southern part of St. Joseph, and I would say the northern part of the unincorporated area of Buchanan County. So that area in between Fawcett and Agency and St. Joseph, all the way to DeKalb North is all that I represent. And that is a very underserved area when it comes to any type of cell service, fiber service. And I now have accredited to, it's an unincorporated area. So they, even though I would say that everyone sits on about, 3 to 5 acres out there, there is no town. And I beg of you, and I know that I was told by Ron Hook that this area was maybe bid by one of those companies that you're referring to, but as you said, they haven't done anything. And the problem is the terrain doesn't really lead itself to that wireless service very well either. So I beg of you to please consider in working with the county to see what you can do about bringing broadband to that area.
You bet, Brendan. We have had, and Ron may have mentioned that, we did have a meeting with the commissioners with some of this additional funding coming down to see, what might work out. We did just finish our build in DeKalb. Faucet's complete, and we're trying to just continue to expand out. But yeah, that's unfortunate that some of that funding is underutilized at this point. So.
I mean, even my constituents are frustrated that it's coming to Willowbrook and it can't come a half mile. I'm just saying that there is this area that does not sit in any incorporated. I think they refer to us as going to be the last mile, but there seems to sure be density out there, and a large desire. I was told by the Department of Economic Development I could create a taxing district. I'm like, I don't have time to do that, to create a taxing district. But these people are hungry for broadband, including myself. I live in that area, and I don't have anything either. So, but I'm not doing it selfishly asking for this. It is my number one issue and emails I receive all the time. And I send them all to call you. I'm sure you've received a lot of this phone calls.
We get a few calls, yeah. But Brenda, seriously, I would love to sit down and show you the map, even if we could just get on a call and kind of show you what we're looking at and see if some of the areas, just to kind of get a little bit better input from some of those areas. I know in your direct area with where your house is and things, and we can talk about some of the things we've talked with the county and see if that falls in line with where you're seeing.
Okay. And I know this phone call is much larger than the small area that I'm speaking about. So I will let others have your ear on that. But you brought up Buchanan County and where you had covered, and I want to thank you for what you've done, but let's see what we can do about the rest of it.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So that was a really helpful update, Darren. I appreciate that. Let's keep moving on before we open it up a little bit more to questions and conversations. I'll just at this point, by all means, use chat if there's anything that you want to make sure that we capture in our Q&A session towards the end. That would be fabulous. At this point, Sarah Lowe, I believe, is going to lead this. You just tell me when you want me to click to the next slide, and I'll keep going.
Thanks, Christel. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Mostly today, I'm going to give an update on Project Overcome, which you may have heard about, but I'm going to start with a little shameless self-promotion. MU Extension has a suite of broadband products that are going to be released actually next week. So I want to give you guys a preview on that. And when I think Christel's already sent out the slide deck, the links on that slide deck will work once these products are released next week. Basically, we're building out a broadband resources page as part of the regional economic development program within Extension. And so these broadband resources and also links to, for example, Marc McCarty's work and the guide curriculum that Joe Lear is leading will all be kind of on that page. So we're putting out a broadband primer, which is kind of a 6-page, literally it's a primer, right? It gives you the technology lingo that you may need to understand the conversation. So it might be a good tool for folks kind of joining this group and wanting to get up to speed on what all the lingo means. We're also releasing an economic impact study that's sponsored by the System engagement and extension team. And that study looks at the economic impact of broadband in 3 Missouri counties. And one of those Missouri counties is Nottoway. And the idea is we looked at 3 counties, but the idea was we looked at kind of a heterogeneous, a varied group of counties. And so we hope that you could find a county similar to your county amongst those 3. So that's the economic benefit study. And we'll also be releasing a Missouri economy indicator, our 2-page policy briefs that come out every other week on broadband. And that will be part of our biweekly newsletter. So if you're not signed up for our newsletter, you can click the link on the slide deck and sign up for our newsletter. Okay, that's enough shameless self-promotion. Thanks, Christel. Mostly today, I want to give a quick, yes, of course, including Nottoway, I want to give a quick update on Project Overcome. Who has, put up your hand or raise your thumb or something, who's heard of this Project Overcome? I'm just trying to get a sense of who's out in the room. Okay, all right, so great. So it sounds like several of you have heard about this. This is a project led by Casey Canfield, who's a professor at Missouri S&T, and she's also part of this University of Missouri engagement group that has been working on broadband that Marc McCarty and Joe Lear also belong to. Next slide. All right, so this Project Overcome, what is it? Well, Casey won a $30,000 grant that is kind of flow through from National Science Foundation. So it's a research grant with an engagement and extension component, okay? So we've got the logos of all our participants in this grant. United, Darren has been really key to this grant. Christel is a key member of this grant. Maximize Northwest Missouri, of course, Exceed within MU Extension. So we're all collaborating on kind of a cool research and extension and engagement project. And basically what we're doing is we're prototyping some new technology, and we have a 1-year grant. So we're going to roll out the new technology, test it, see how effective it is. And then hopefully in subsequent years, if it works, we can apply for more funding and basically expand the pilot beyond one town. So what are we doing that's novel? The project is novel because it's using 3 different technologies. We're using fixed wireless. So in this graphic, the fixed wireless is going from kind of Darren's fiber edge that he has with United to the grain leg of a grain elevator, right? So we've got the fixed wireless component. Then we've got a programmable intelligent router. So basically the engineers on the project are programming a router so that we can allocate bandwidth as needed. So a family that has, kids come home at 3 o'clock and they get off the school bus and they need a lot of internet, that intelligent router can learn that and learn that this household needs more internet at 3 o'clock, whereas maybe a business might need more internet, when 8 o'clock rolls around. So the intelligent router is the second kind of novel piece of this technology. And the third novel piece is that we're using unlicensed long-term evolution, or LTE, bandwidth to get the fixed wireless essentially from the grain leg to households within about a 3-mile radius, which will include the town of Turney. So next slide, Christel. At first, when this project first came out, we had to kind of, the sponsor actually asked us to keep the town that was getting this technology under wraps. So we had released that it was going to be in Clinton County, but we hadn't released the town. So if you haven't heard, the town, the pilot site for this program is going to be Turney. And we'll be basically doing a survey here pretty soon that I'll talk a little bit more about, but we'll be recruiting households within this 3-mile radius of this map that Darren and his team put together for us to participate in this pilot. So we're really excited about this pilot site in Turney in Clinton County. Next slide. Okay, how can you get engaged? How can you help? I've got a few slides on this. Basically, we're going to do what's called a difference in difference analysis. I know, getting technical, getting researchy, but we're gonna survey people in Turney and also people in these other 12 towns to learn about their internet needs, their desires, their dreams, what their willingness to pay is. And this will be kind of a pre-control, before the internet rolls out in Turney. So we will be doing a random mail survey of 700 households, but we'll also be at the Clinton County Fair and several other venues trying to get people to complete this pre-test, as it were. So particularly if you live or know people who live in one of these 12 communities, we'd love for you to let people know that this mail survey is coming to selected households. We are hopefully going to be mailing that out in July. So please ask people to look for the mail survey, but also even if you're not in one of these 12 towns, we'd love for you to complete the online survey or come visit us at the MU Extension booth at the Clinton County Fair, and you can complete the survey there. The survey will essentially be focused on internet, willingness to pay, as I already mentioned, but also some of the key things that the grant was looking for. How is the internet improving entrepreneurship, employment? How is the internet making the economy in Clinton County or in Northwest Missouri better? So we're trying to quantify that. We're also interested in education, distance learning, on-the-job training, and health, telemedicine. So we're looking at certain benefits, and we'd love people's help with this survey. Next slide. And just to clarify, there is also a survey on the Maximize Northwest Missouri website that's focused on sharing dreams and measuring broadband access. It points you to the broadband speed test, essentially. So this mail survey that we're doing as part of Project Overcome in these target communities and at the Clinton County Fair, that's a different survey. So there's two surveys out there. Christel's survey is the short, easy, nice one. And I encourage you all to do that because we'd love to populate the speed test. We'd love to get more info on that speed test, but do look for the mail survey in July. We're also hosting Ice Cream Social in Turney as part of Project Overcome, kind of to help raise awareness of the project in the community. And I would love to hear from any of you who have connections there that can help us connect with people, coordinate to increase participation, and find how to participate in the project in Turney. So if you have any Turney connections, please email me or talk to Christel. We'd love to utilize your connections to help make this pilot project a success. Next slide. Yeah, that's it. That's questions. So quick update. Any questions on Project Overcome?
This isn't a question, but I would just mention that part of what Maximize Northwest Missouri is doing is really focusing on overall community and regional engagement and just trying to help people connect with each other. And so the short survey that Sarah mentioned that's out there really is meant to be sort of an awareness builder, a motivator to just share your voice, share what you love, share what you don't necessarily love, you see as a challenge. What do you see that we could work on together better? Those sorts of things. And it's going over really, really well. There's like 10,000 postcards that went out, and we've been receiving a lot of different responses back, which is great. So it's not necessarily an academic study, it's more of an engagement effort versus what Sarah was talking about, which is really making sure we do due diligence on the research part of this project. So.
Thanks for the clarification, Christel.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we have next up a little information about the new community guide. I believe that's Mark. Am I right about that?
Okay, great. I'll tell you where to turn. I'm going to talk for just a few minutes about the guide to give you a little flavor of what it's about and what we're trying to do. And then I'm going to turn it over to Sam, who will actually show some, he'll get online to actually show you some of the tools that we have as part of it. First, why is a lawyer or an ex-lawyer, a retired lawyer, messing around trying to talk to you about high-speed internet and broadband? Just a little bit of clarification. I guess I spent a good portion of my career working on public-private partnerships for a local law firm. Taught part-time at the University of Missouri and Kansas City in the law school. And about 5 years ago, I became aware, because of some things that happened in my own family, that we really did have a connectivity problem in this state. There's just an awful lot of areas that don't have adequate high-speed internet at all. And one of the things I noticed working on projects throughout the Midwest and Mountain West, in addition to Missouri, is the one thing that I can tell you that is common is that communities that have high-speed internet access are generally thriving, and ones that don't are dying. And that's a pretty harsh assessment, but it's true. The idea behind the guide is we got, there are a lot of materials out there. What I became aware of is there's just a lot of folks that don't know how to address the problem. They don't know how to get started. And so the thought process behind the guide, it really grew out of some work that we had done last year in a workshop for a particular county, Gollnick County, is that we might be able to help communities understand how to approach this issue, how to actually change things for the better. So that's the idea. So go ahead and flip the next one, Christel. The guide itself is going to be Canvas based and also publicly available. There'll be parts of it that will be available for the public to look at, for anybody to look at it. But we're also going to have an online course that's going to be led by MU Extension. And Joe is going to be heading up that effort. It's designed to complement a website that we have rolled out last year, and I hope everybody has had a chance to look at it, mobroadband.org. If you haven't, I really encourage you to take a look at it. There's a lot of material and a lot of helpful tools on there already. The idea was the course would be a facilitated course. It will have folks that are specifically trained from MU Extension to help in this effort, to help communities, stakeholders actually make a difference in their community. The ultimate goal being to put together a comprehensive comprehensive written proposal to digitally connect the community. Now, there may be a lot of different ways to do that. And part of the process that folks are going to go through in these communities is to figure out which one works best for them. It will, in addition to the MU Extension cohorts, Sarah, myself, and several other professors, both from all campuses. Casey's one of them, Casey Canfield, Lab Gupta from UMSL, Tony Lapino from UMKC are all going to be helping in this effort as well. The main thing to keep in mind is this is not it's a community stakeholder led effort. It's not intended to be somebody, we're not going to impose something on folks. What we want them to do is to go through a process to learn more about the industry, the different technologies, what their community wants, and put together a package that makes some sense for that particular community. Next slide, Christel. So what's the game plan? Well, part of it you've heard some about is develop a vision, right? You got to know what you're trying to get to. And what we're trying to get to, what we would suggest is to not focus on getting fiber or getting wireless or whatever. Instead, focus on what applications are most interested, is of most of interest in their community. Most of the time, what you will find is folks are looking for an ability to start a business and work a business online. They're looking for ways to access healthcare better, and they're looking for ways to do online education. Those are the kind of the three pillars of MU extension, so it really fits in well. Also going to spend some time trying to put together, get the right folks in the room, the right stakeholders in the room. So that would be folks from local government, it'd be folks from NGOs, it will be business leaders, all working to take this course together. From that, what we want to do is we want to survey the community. We want to find out what are really truly the needs in the community. What are folks looking for? What do they need? You may think you know that, but you may be surprised. You may find out that there are something that's been overlooked. And most importantly, what we want to find out is what are folks willing to pay for high-speed internet service, and do they have reservations about using internet-based applications? All those are going to be critically important when you're trying to figure out whether or not you can actually put something together in the community, a public-private partnership to make something happen. Technology. A lot of folks are completely baffled by the different types of technology, the bandwidth, throughput, all the different technical terms. We wanted, basically the stuff is complex, but if you spend some time with it, it's not impossible to learn. And if you have an understanding of it, it really gives you a leg up in trying to figure out who are your best private partners that can work with the public to make this happen. And then finally, next to finally is develop a P3 strategy, a public-private partnership strategy. We believe that that's critical if we're going to solve this problem. We're going to need government, and we're going to need private business, and we're going to need non-government entities all invested in this process. So how do you do that? Well, that's part of the course. We have ways that and techniques that communities can use and stakeholders can use to figure out what will work best for them. It might be a government-led initiative. It might be a private-led initiative, but it will depend on the community in each case. And finally, once you get the proposal, you've got to figure out whether or not it's going to work. And so what needs to happen afterward? Well, how do you work together as a community to facilitate adoption of these technologies? How do you bridge fears that folks have concerning the use of high-speed internet? Next slide, Christel. Here's some of the tools. I'm not going to read them all out. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Sam. And Sam, why don't you demo a couple of the tools and applications that we are putting on the Missouri Broadband Resource Rail.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm going to hijack the screen just for a minute. So I've been working closely with the UM team to kind of get this guide up and running and get these tools working, and mainly put it all up on our Missouri Broadband Resource Rail. So this is our front page for mobroadband.org. At any time, please come visit. There's a number of resources and maps and data or events coming up that you could attend. Those maps that Christel shared earlier from All Things Missouri, that's actually out of the office I work for called CARES, which also helped build this resource rail. So a lot of the same maps and data will be available on here. But one of the things specifically we've been working on is something we're calling this funding opportunities sorter. So all of the open and available opportunities for grants and loans are loaded to this and then tagged based on their purpose, their type, and the eligible recipients or beneficiaries. So for instance, I could click on local governments, for instance, and my selection will get smaller and smaller each time I click one of these checkboxes. So this is one of the ways we will help some communities find funding faster, and that will fit their specific needs. Additionally, we work really hard to create maps and data visualizations as we can assess broadband access and current infrastructure. So right now we're kind of going through all of the funded areas since 2018. So I believe Darren referenced earlier this Connect America CAF2 fund that was funded across Missouri in 2018. Or in 2019, we had the Reconnect Award areas, and these were the areas that were selected for that, a big one up in the Northwest region. A lot came out of 2020. The Reconnect Award areas, again, we had the CARES grant project, the Missouri broadband project areas, and then the big Rural Digital Opportunity Fund that Christel shared earlier. And so when we throw all those together and look at the Northwest, you can see quite a bit has already been happening. So as we start to build those P3 structures, we can see, what areas already have some funding that might be able to be coupled and work together to expand that out faster. And so I encourage each of you to come in and play with this story map anytime you can as well.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention, just to leave that up on the screen there for just a second, Sam.
Okay.
We talk about these areas and funding, and I think Darren could probably add some things on this. The funding it's kind of an interesting process, particularly on the FCC side. The RDOF funding, which was all those areas in green, all of that money was announced back in December, and I think it was $9.2 billion that was available to communities all throughout the United States. Missouri got its fair share, but the problem is that money, nothing actually went out the door. There's no dollars that went out the door, and in fact, it will probably be later this summer at the earliest before the awards start funding. And once they do start funding, instead of getting the money up front to get that, writing a check for $9.2 billion, that money comes in over 10 years, okay? And the grantees, the awardees, are allowed up to 6 years to actually build out. So what does that mean? We think that means that there's a real opportunity for communities to partner with these folks to help make the case for building in their area first. Before they build in other areas. And we think that communities that are organized and that are ready to and willing and ready to accept that the broadband and to do their share to help foster the private industry's growth, they're going to be the ones that are probably going to have the build out occur first. So that's one of the ways we're going to use these tools that are on the Missouri Broadband Resource Rail now to help communities figure out ways to enter into productive public-private partnerships. I don't have anything else. Do you want any questions for Sam or for me about the guide or about the process?
I don't think so. In chat, thank you. That was a fabulous presentation. There is one question in chat. Once suitable broadband capacity is in place in a community, what timelines can we anticipate before improvement is noted in survey categories? Not sure who that is best directed to, but.
And is the question how fast are we looking at build outs on some of these funding? Well, I think maybe I just gave you the answer right there. I mean, if you're looking at it, these companies actually have well, Darren, you can speak to this probably better than I, but they have some degree of flexibility as whether they build first. They are required to start within 36 months of an award date, is my understanding. And they do have they are building out, they do have certain benchmarks that they have to hit each year, but ultimately their last benchmark is 6 years into the process, I think.
That's right, Mark. It's it's 40% year 3, moving up 20% a year till 100% completion in year 6. If they don't get and are requested or if they don't request and get an extension, it could even be potentially longer.
Yeah, so that's the good. I mean, the carrot is we've got money out there. For the fine print is, it takes a while for that money to actually show up. And so there still is a lot of room for local government and for local business and for NGOs to assist in the process of making broadband happen in these communities, even if it looks like they've been awarded a big amount of money, I guess is the way I put it.
Well, I did just get a text from someone who had to hop off a little early, but their question was, what is kind of the bottom line for communities? Are we basically saying that the more organized the community is in being intentional about attracting broadband providers to their area, that's a good thing? Or does it really matter if the community's organized or not? End of the day, what can people actually do to help get this going?
Well, I think there's, in terms of the specifics on the types of public-private partnership initiatives, one thing that we think that might be that local government could do to help jumpstart the process, and perhaps some large users in the community, if they could commit to use or to take a certain percentage of the bandwidth in the community, that reduces the amount that the private entity has, or the private business, the ISP, has to figure out, do they have a customer base? In other words, that's one way that a public institution can encourage the build out in a particular area by an ISP. That's one option. And there are probably dozens more. What I found, and I'm not, again, I think I started this by saying I'm no big expert on internet technologies. Everything I know about it, I've learned over the last 1.5 to 2 years of basically doing quite a bit of reading. But I can tell you that my experience working in the economic development area is that communities that did organize and that were anxious to bring a particular project in their communities, they were more likely to get the project built in their community. It's not, there are no certainties in life, right? But what you want to do is you want to do whatever you can to make the best case you can. And that's really the purpose, a big purpose of the guide that we're presenting.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that again. I guess that would be the answer, but since it came across, I wanted to make sure we asked that question, and it is very helpful. So I know that we are coming up on our hour here. We did start just a minute or two late, but are there any other things that I know we've got Chris Collins from USDA on who has joined us, as well as Tim. Not to put you guys on the spot, but if you have anything that you'd like to share, this would be a great time. We'll keep this open here for just a few more minutes so we can capture this great information.
It's like Steve Wagner had a question.
Okay, Steve.
I was just gonna ask Mark, and maybe this is too long of a question, but for your P3, how difficult is it to put cross jurisdictions together? So in Brenda's case, she mentioned 4 specific communities, or in Clinton County, if they were to put 5, 6 towns, jurisdictions together, or even multiple counties, does it get too complicated, or does it really need to be a tight, small jurisdiction to really be successful and meet the criteria of the P3 and all that goes with it?
Well, one of the things that Missouri has in the statute is an ability of local governmental units to join and cooperate. And it's a fairly detailed statute. So in terms of getting the legal stuff right, there is a framework for communities to join together and to cooperate in a venture that makes sense for them, and each one making a contribution. Now, the other question is, from a practical standpoint, are you going to be successful getting that done? And can you work together? And that's a question that, it kind of varies depending on community to community, how deeply tied the folks are in terms of wanting to work on the project. the synergies involved. And one of the purposes of the guide is to explore some of that, to figure out who in our community has an interest in having high-speed broadband access, and I'm talking about on the government side, and could they work together to make something happen in that community? So maybe that's not too long of an answer, but that's about the best I can do.
Great. Chris?
Oh, hey, yeah. Hey, Christel. Well, thanks. I was just wanting to say, thanks for the invite. This is the first chance I've had the opportunity to be on the meeting. So that's some great information. From the USDA side, we do have another round of Reconnect looking at September timeframe for application periods. But, to what was just discussed by Mark and questions by others, our Community Connect grant program is one that's been going on for a few years. And starting this next year, there is a extra point percentage that someone can get if you have a community plan in place. And so it's a point system under y'all may be familiar with it, is the Strategic Economic Community Development Program. So Community Connect is adopting or being part of that. So if applicants apply under SECD, they can get up to 20 points additional on top of their scoring for that grant. So just a couple of tidbits for you. Again, it's been really informative, and thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Thank you. Tim, before we get to our ending slide here in decision, do you have anything to share?
A couple things. Absolutely, we'll share the slides from the hearing with you, Christel, for the group in a PDF format. Probably the thing that's kind of knocking on the door right now is the U.S. Department of Commerce through the NTIA office has an infrastructure grant program open right now. As a state, we're assessing the ability for what it's called a covered partnership in determining kind of our next steps. There was a significant webinar late last week that answered a lot of my questions, also caused a few more questions that we have to work through in order to figure this out. So there potentially could be a process opened up to seek project areas. And that would be a partnership with the state, with fixed broadband providers throughout the state, where we would essentially vet and secure potential projects that we would send on to DC for a federal grant application opportunity. And that's due mid-August, so August 17th. So there's going to be an infrastructure program this summer.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. So I will look for those slides from you, and we'll make sure that they get out along with this information. That's great. Well, before we close our conversation here today, I just want to thank everybody for sharing, and it would be helpful if we could decide on what you would all like to do as we move this conversation forward. We can close it out, report out what we've learned, check back next year, kind of like we have this last year. Or we could do B, which would be option A, plus maybe invite others to share in a similar session like this this fall. It sounds like there's maybe some deadlines coming up for different organizations. Would it be a helpful thing to have a fall conversation? Or C, option A, and really start a little more collaborative effort on this particular issue, so that any of those communities out there who are looking for just a tiny bit of support, liaison to some of these great resources that we've heard about today, in particular the toolkit, so that they can get those points on different grant applications as having a community effort, would that be appropriate to do? So if you all don't mind turning your camera on as best you can, or popping into chat, we kind of have a new way of doing some voting on these three different things, and it's called fist to 5 voting. So just very, very quickly, a closed fist means I require changes. I don't want any action to happen. 1 finger is I have some concerns, but not enough to block it. 2 is I have issues. So I want to keep the conversation going. 3 is I'm fine. I'm not going to get in anybody's way, but I really don't have anything to offer to it. 4 is I think it's a great idea to move forward, and we'll partner with leaders to implement it. And then 5 is I love it. I want to help with it, maybe even lead it. So that's super fast overview. We're going to see how well this works. I'll go ahead and everybody feel like you're good. You understand that. 5 is I love it. Okay. 4 is I think it's great. I'll help out, but probably won't lead. And then we kind of go down from there. So option A, does everybody want to report this out, make it public? Everything shared here is good to go to share. I should see lots of 5s, right? Start with the easy one. Okay, option B. And we're going to kind of do this. Do we think we want to do option A plus invite others to have a session this fall? Are we interested in having this conversation again this fall? Okay, I got lots of 4s. That's fantastic. And how about C? Are we feeling like this is a big enough effort that we'd really like some administrative support behind having a collaborative team kind of work on this on a regular basis, maybe once a month, whatever that group is can decide frequency. But how do you like having a collaborative action team? Okay, I see 4s, I see 3s, I see 5s, 2 to 3. We do not have a consensus there, but I'm going to say, hold them up one more time. Okay, it looks like a strong 4. So if we find a leader, we will get that rolling, but very helpful. Any closing questions before we sign off for the day? Comments? Well, if not, I thank you again. I encourage you to check out the website. This will be posted probably within 24 hours. And we'll continue to email out and let you know how things progress with this particular topic. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Christel.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.